Okay, let's bring in Jim Barker now. I wish, as the training camps have broken ground, Jim, that we had more positive things to talk about, but here we are. Chad Kelly was out on the field with the Argos at Guelph yesterday. What is your take on that and the entire situation, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I'll start with this. First, I was shocked but I don't know what happened. I mean, nobody knows what happened. So he got 9 games for violating the gender-based violence policy. And when the suspension came out, it said he violated the gender-based violence policy. Well, a history on that policy. I was the GM in Toronto when it was crafted by Jeffrey Orridge in 2015. I don't know if you remember back then, Rod, but the NFL was going through a ton of domestic violence cases. There was just a lot of players getting involved with that type of thing. Our league was just starting to scratch the surface with, again, most of it had to do with, in fact, the only 2 things listed in there are sexual assault and domestic violence. So obviously I was aware of that, and I actually had a couple players that we went through that process with, and actually it was a great help. The league was a great help. Those youngsters' names never came out. They were taken care of, and that was the genesis of this policy. Now it's used for the first time, I think, ever for a workplace situation, and I was just interested. The 9 games is more than has ever been given in the CFL, I believe. Here's what I want to know. What did he do? Okay, did he hit? Was there violence? Was there actual threatening texts, or did he? What happened? What did the report show? 9 games is substantial, but I think that we deserve to know something in terms of the severity of what he did. And eventually, I know they put out an executive summary, which was basically, I believe, went out on Wednesday after it happened, that Chad Kelly got, probably, and his agent and lawyer and that type of thing, that outlined exactly what that meant in terms of his suspension. So the Argos let him out on the field, and that's a collective bargaining agreement. They really don't have a choice except to do that unless they as a team want to suspend him, which is their right. Now, they did an independent investigation themselves, came out in support of Chad Kelly, said that they found nothing. I believe that was and it had to do also with the suit against them. So they did their own thing. So I'm guessing that they didn't feel like what happened warranted him being suspended by the team. I don't know. I'm just speculating. So until the league comes forward or things of this summary are leaked, I'm going to withhold judgment on. I mean, maybe 9 games isn't enough. Maybe it should be a year. I mean, maybe it should be 3 games. Maybe it shouldn't even be a penalty, and he should have gone for counseling. Maybe there's really nothing there at all. I mean, I don't. You have to trust the commissioner that he gave 9 games, so something is there. Now, again, does it warrant? Was it a couple of texts? Was it him asking her out, which I don't believe is a violation? Was he persistent in asking her out? Maybe 2 or 3 times. Is that a worthy of 9 games? I don't. Again, we don't know, because we don't know exactly what happened. Based on what she said, was that he was persistent in asking her out. So again, I'm going to withhold, just like you, withhold judgment until I hear the real facts about what's happened.
I don't know if it will ever come out. I hope that it does. I'll tell you, I think we can all agree he's been made to look real bad. I had a friend who is an Argos season ticket holder. He's probably watching right now. He loves this show because of the CFL content. He goes, my wife won't go to a game if Chad Kelly's quarterback in the Argos. That based on what she's seen and what's been reported, right? Like it's a really ugly situation, and I'm with you. We have leaders for a reason, and I hope that they handle it well, and I hope for the best for all involved. Yeah.
He got 9 games because he violated a gender-based violence policy. And I agree. If he actually did something along the lines of assault or some, maybe it should be a year. Maybe he should be longer. So that's what people don't know. That's where they're left, because there's nothing in there that talks about what did he do? What is not right? What is worth 9 games? Or maybe some people will think, well, that he shouldn't have got 9 games for that. So until that stuff comes out, it's so hard to tell. I'll tell you this though, somebody from, I know I've been in this league for a long time, and I got fined for saying something about the schedule one year, that came out. Somebody from the league office blasted the Argos for having him on the field publicly, saying how outrageous it was. And again, if she's not fined, how can you say there's equity in this league? I mean, if a team person would say something like that to the league office, you're talking about major fines. So it's just interesting watching all the interaction going on when really there's been nothing said about what did he do.
And all of it is so ugly. But let me just talk about football purposes for a second. Before all this came down, like last year, you and I talked about Chad Kelly a lot. Everybody talked about Chad Kelly a lot. It was like the Argos didn't win unless he played. And aside from what Pinball said yesterday, him and Dinwiddie are obviously standing behind him. You said it's a CBA thing, and I get that too. But I think it's more than just the fact that he's a good player. They must believe in him. But I guess he's that good, eh, Jim? He gets a lot of chances. He's a hell of a quarterback, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know that that's even at play here, what kind of player he is. I mean, if it was a backup offensive lineman going through the same thing, would they do the same way?
I think it always is.
Do the same
I
thing?
think it always comes down to that.
To how good a player he is?
Different rules for different people.
Well, again, and his history, I'm sure, plays into the term of Chris Edwards jumped over a rail and punched out a fan and got 6 games narrowed down to 3 games. Now that's criminal. That could have been criminal. It wasn't, but it could have become criminal. Is what Chad Kelly did, could it be construed as criminal? We don't know, because there's been nothing put out except he violated this policy. The only thing in the policy, and I went back and looked at it, I had it, was sexual assault, domestic violence, but it said it could go to verbal abuse and things like that. So again, I just want to know what it was that warranted 9 games, and not saying it could be. I would say, you know what, he should have got a year for that. So I'm not taking a side, Rod. It's just it's a really weird situation the way the whole thing has come down.
Well, and then they always back it up by saying it's a different time now, Rod or Jim, than it was back then. Is it ever? By the way, on the flip side for a second, we know Chad Kelly be gone for 9 games. And what about Bo Levi showing up in a walking boot? And you've been through a million of these camps, and the vets participate generally at the quarterback position because they're the best quarterbacks, right? Bo in a boot. I did not see that coming. Do you know anything about that?
I went to Hamilton yesterday to watch practice. I went to Toronto, to Guelph, watch the Argos on Wednesday. Then I went to Hamilton yesterday. I thought it was just a horrible mistake made by the Tiger Cats. Either take the boot off to go on the field, or don't go on the field. It's rookie camp. He doesn't need to be there. But to have him walk out with a boot on the field, to me, puts doubt in his own teammates' mind. I mean, instead of coming in fired up, ready to go, even if they know, but now the world knows. Opponents they play, his ankle must not be as good as what he was saying it was. Now, I had talked to Scott just prior to camp, and he said, "Man, he looks great. He's running around. Everything looks great." And I guess what he did was he worked out so much on it, it must have swelled. Again, I thought it was a mistake on their organization's part putting him out there. There's no reason to have us discussing Bo Levi's and have teams around the league all saying, "Well, Hamilton, Bo Levi's already hurt." It just doesn't. It doesn't help the org. I tried to think of one way it would help their organization to have him go out there in a boot, and I couldn't come up with one. And is it wrong to hide him, to tell him not to come out? I don't think so. He's a veteran. It's rookie camp. Wasn't going to be doing anything. Just stay inside. Go watch it on film and that kind of thing. That's the way I would have approached it. But they chose to put him out there, and like I say, who knows? He supposedly, Scott told me he's practicing Monday. They're just doing some indoor things on Sunday. So the first day with the veterans, he'll be out there. Again, everybody's going to be watching. Will there be a limp? Is there any kind of residual? Everything is just magnified now on that. And that's the wrong thing. If he goes out and has 2 or 3 good days of practice, we're not even talking about his foot anymore. It's not even a point of interest. But of course, now it totally is because he's done that.
The games will decide this, but who's the best team in the West? BC or Winnipeg in your mind, or somebody else?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm going to say Winnipeg right now just because they have been for the last 4 years. And again, did they lose enough to say they're not going to be that? They re-signed Brady Oliveira. We talked in free agency. I thought them just getting those guys back. But Oliveira's hurt. Nick Dembski's hurt at the beginning of camp. They've got some movement in their offensive line, losing Jamarcus Hardrick. Again, BC, they've lost some major things too. They were known for speed on defense. They need to get bigger. They need to be able to stop the run this year. We talked about it every week that when they played the good teams, they struggled because they couldn't stop the run. So, but they had great speed. Matthew Betts led the league in sacks, or was toward the top of the league in sacks. Can they replace him? And Vernon Adams, I think they're changing their philosophy a bit. It sounds like with stand back now at running back. They draft Una, the big offensive lineman. I think they're going to try to become more physical on their offensive line, which will transfer over, I believe, to their defense. So, I think BC is going to be a very difficult team for Winnipeg. Saskatchewan, again, I like the things that they've done. If Trevor Harris stays healthy, I'm going to say they're right there with those teams to compete. Does he have to stay healthy? Absolutely, 100%. He has to stay healthy, and Mark Mueller, in his first year as a coordinator, needs to find ways to take the heat off of him so that he can do the things Trevor Harris can do. So, to me, those 3 teams are the teams I would look at you got Vernon Adams, you got Trevor Harris, you got Zach Collaros. Okay, the other teams, you have Edmonton with McLeod, Bethel Thompson, but a ton of question marks, and you have Calgary, who, again, with Jake Mayer, is he going to take another step forward? That's tough to tell. So, health of the quarterback is a big thing, Rod, and I think in that division, there's 5 good quarterbacks. There really is. It could be a whale of division.
I'm going to ask you one more, and then we got to run. But with the Chad Kelly thing and now the Bo thing, it's kind of an unfair question to say, does Montreal run away with the East? Right now, it kind of looks like they do.
No, they're not going to run away with it. They're not a champ. No, they don't have Stanback. They don't have Austin Mack anymore. They've lost They've lost people on their defense. I don't see where they're going to run away with it. Again, remember this time last year, we were talking about Montreal being the worst team in the entire CFL. And now here they are. We're talking about that they're head and shoulders above. I don't buy that. Ottawa, I think, has got some issues with the ratio and some of their offensive linemen. They have to step up and be the kind of players they can be. But Ottawa has, again, no running back, and there's just a lot of questions with them. Toronto, is Chad Kelly out 9 games and then back? Is he what's the situation? He does determine how good they're going to be. I mean, the other guy is a young guy, and who knows what's going to happen with Cameron Dukes. And Hamilton is Bo Levi's in a boot.
You've forgotten that Montreal has Cody Fajardo and God on their side. I'm just here to remind you.
That is true.
Of that.
That is true.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you,
in
Ron.
the week.
Very good.
Our football analyst, Jim Barker, joining us from Hogtown.